and welcome to the Pete Braley Show. Thank you so much for checking us out. On this show, we shine the spotlight on people that have made life better for us here on the South Coast and in Greater New Bedford. They've maybe entertained us, or they've provided a service to us for years. And today we welcome a man who has done and continues to do so many different things here on the South Coast. You may know him from the Surrey Shoppe. You may know him from some of the work that he's done and still does with Surrey Jewelry Services. Maybe you cheered him on at the Fourball tournament, or maybe he was your real estate agent. Did I leave anything out? Please welcome Joel Gonsalves.
Good morning, Pete. Such a pleasure to be here with you again.
One thing I've noticed with people I've interviewed on this show is they all do a number of things. Nobody does just one thing. So,
well, being self-employed, you have to do a number of things, I think.
Right.
It's very hard to do one career because they ebb and flow like anything else, and you have to move on, or kind of a side hustle, as they say these days.
Sure.
Create another side hustle. And go ahead.
I first met Joel when we would do a weekly call-in, a phoner, as we call it, from the Surrey Shoppe.
Yeah.
And let's go back and talk about the Surrey Shoppe for a little bit. Was that always a part of your life? The store was around for 54 years?
Well, we started in 1962, October of 62. Stan Lip did his radio open line from our front window, as a matter of fact. And that's how it all started. Of course, in those days, they'd come in 2 days in advance and set up the phone banks and everything was over the line. Actually picked up a phone.
Now I do it with a laptop.
Now you do it with a laptop, so it's a different world, but it was a lot of fun, and that's how it morphed over time. And then in 1965, we opened the Surrey Shoppe that a lot of people may remember, the big Surrey Shoppe.
So where was the first one? Where the Carriage Inn was?
The first one was where the Carriage Inn restaurant was, right.
Okay.
It was called Mary Lou's Card Shop. And in 1962, of course, the way it all started, my father was a wood crafter, and my mother was an optician for Dr. Birmingham, downtown New Bedford. That. And my father, Matt, was a produce manager at Almack's on Nauset Street.
Okay.
And they got together, and he was a handy guy, so she would work her job during the day, as would he. And then they'd come home at night and make crafts in the cellar, and then peddle them on the Cape over the weekend out of the car.
I never knew that.
With me in tow. And
how old were you at the time?
I was 4 years old at the time, 4 or 5 maybe. And that's how it all started. And then that built up so much. And then they'd take orders on the Cape, come home at night, make them in the cellar. So they worked like dogs for many years, working day jobs. Then after a while, they realized that day jobs weren't necessary anymore. It was just too much. And these crafts were selling so well that they decided to open a shop. So they happened to see this Mary Lou's Card Shop where the Carriage Inn was.
Right.
And I think, as I remember, my father and mother borrowed $9,000 on a life insurance policy and bought Mary Lou's gift shop and turned it into the Surrey Shoppe.
Wow.
And the evolution of the name was it was a livery stable at one time. Very old building. Okay. And if you went up to the second floor, the second floor was tilted this way a little bit.
Okay.
Because they would slide hay bales off the back onto the wagons and the surreys that came by. And that's where the name came from, the Surrey Shoppe.
Did you have a Surrey in the shop?
We did, yeah. In about 1965, when the large Surrey Shoppe opened.
Right.
We outgrew the first one. Business became so great that we needed a bigger space. So there was a building next door called Worthington's Bakery that many people may remember. And we picked that up and moved it to Acushnet. It's still a house today. Somebody lives in it. And built the current Surrey Shoppe that's there.
Oh, wow.
And my parents happened to be taking a drive through Middleborough, Lakeville area, and they happened to spot this Surrey in someone's yard.
Right.
And my mother said, pull over, And my father did, and they went and made an offer and bought the Surrey and then brought it to the store. We had it painted, and that was the history of the Surrey Shoppe and the Surrey.
Wow.
That spent the next 50 years in there, till 51 years or so, till I closed the store in 2016.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
and I donated it.
The Surrey, you donated it?
Donated it, and I believe it's still in Freetown somewhere now.
Okay.
They were going to put it in the museum, but I don't know if that's happened or not.
Right.
I hope so.
So the Surrey Shoppe was always part of your life?
Since as long as I can remember, I've done nothing else. I've had one job, other than some odd jobs like caddying and things like that as a young guy.
Right.
But this has been the only thing I did. I worked in the shop, of course, when I was a kid, and then I went off to college and graduated in 1980, May of 1980, and I think I graduated on May 31st and was at work on June 1st, and been doing the same thing ever since.
Wow.
Yep.
My earliest memory of the Surrey Shoppe is when my mother used to take me. I was
Yes.
maybe 8 or 9 years old at the time, and my mother always told me and my brother, elbows in and don't touch anything. If you break it, you own it.
We heard that a lot from mothers as they walked in the door.
And
Now, you don't touch anything.
I remember there were aisles of, I don't know what they were made of. In my mind, they were crystal and things that I should never touch. You know?
Yeah, those were great days. Your mother was a wonderful lady, by the way. Great,
thank you.
Great customer.
Thank you. Yeah, I think of her often.
Yeah.
So, did you picture yourself getting into the Surrey Shoppe, the gift shop business, or what did you go to school for? What was your hope when you went to school?
Boy, that's a long time ago. You're pressing me now to remember that. I went
What
there.
did you want to be when you grew up?
I'm still trying to figure that out at 66.
I hear you.
Yeah.
Same thing.
That's why I do all these different jobs, because I'm still trying to find my way. I guess so. Yeah, it was kind of set in stone.
Right.
In those days, we were thriving, and it seemed like the thing to do. Then things started to change over time. Of course, the Dartmouth Mall opened in 1971.
Right.
Started to change the business, but not a lot. It wasn't a big deal. We still were thriving. As a matter of fact, 1989 was the best year I ever had in business.
Really?
So even though the mall was 18 years old at that point.
Right.
But then the Taunton Mall came along, and then that whole thing started to, the malls, and then of course the part of a nail in the coffin kind of thing came when the internet broke out in the mid-90s, and that slowly started to erode not only us, but everybody in small business.
Sure.
You know, in the early days, as you may remember, everybody shopped on their corner. And Lund's Corner. You know, we had the cobbler, and we had the grocery stores, and we had the TV shop, and we had the hardware store, and every, you know, the gift shop, and everybody shopped in their own little neighborhoods. Once the malls came along, and then of course the internet after that all went away. So
I don't know if you remember this, but you taught me something back in maybe 89, or maybe, I guess when the malls were around. You know, I was doing a radio show. I was trying to be the funny guy and say stuff. And I remember I was doing something on the air, and I was talking about Christmas shopping. And I was like, it's the day to go to the mall, big day at the mall. And you called, it wasn't on the air, but you very nicely pointed out to me, you said, hey, what about the small businesses? You keep saying mall, mall, mall. You know, what about us?
yeah.
And a light bulb went off, and I was like, he's right. And now there's so much emphasis, you know, Small Business Saturday and things like that. But
even to this day, I'm the same way. When I need something, then my first move is to go to a local vendor if I can. And then if I can't find it, then of course I go to a big box store maybe next. And then if I can't find it, now my next move is the internet. But I always try to go to the little guys first.
Is that what?
I had some film developed recently. I went to K. Ellis Photo Center.
Oh, nice.
You know,
nice.
Great gentleman in there that does a great job, and the Falco Jewelers of the world, and those are the people that I think we should all still try to
because I've seen a number
visit.
of memes, but you know, people have commented about how it's your local business that sponsors the Little League team. You know,
question.
I mean, your Walmarts and your malls are not going to sponsor your local teams. So
yeah, and they're not going to go out to dinner and in your local restaurants, and and supporting the staff there, of course, who then takes their money and supports other businesses and their families.
Right.
So it's definitely shop
I've
small
never
if
said,
you can.
but thank you for telling me that. Thank you for teaching me that.
My pleasure.
Did the internet? What led to the closing of the store? Must have been a very difficult decision for you, I would think.
It was the worst,
and that was what? That
toughest
was
decision I ever made. 2016.
2016.
September of 2016. Toughest decision I ever made. Probably should have happened earlier, to be honest.
Okay.
Yeah, the last few years were tough, and that's why I realized that. But you know, we get not complacent, but our heart is in it. That's all I ever did, and I didn't want to give it up. I loved it. I loved going. You know, I spent far more time in that store than I did in my own home. So I loved going there every day, and it just became cumbersome.
Right.
And it was tough to just pay the bills toward the end. Everything, taxes, you name it. We hear the same story from our own homeowners: taxes, insurance, gas, electric, freight costs, everything.
Did the internet have a big Was that a big reason?
No question. The internet made a big difference because people's shopping habits just changed. You know, I say to a young person now, or you to your kids, where do they go first, right? Amazon. Yeah. And so that's the way of the world now, and we have to face it and deal with it.
Right.
So that's why I morphed, and I became kind of an internet guy with Surrey Jewelry Services.
Now, why'd you? I know we used to always joke about if you needed a watch battery, this was the guy to go to.
And I still am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Well,
how did Surrey Jewelry Services come to be?
After I closed the Surrey Shoppe, I took about a year and a half and kind of trying to find myself and thinking about what I would do. Did I want to find another location, a smaller spot maybe?
Yep.
And I happened to speak with Leif and Linda Johannesson over at What a Fine Consignment in Fairhaven.
Right. Okay.
When I closed the Surrey Shoppe, I had some large curio cabinets and consigned them there. And one day I was in there picking up a check that they had sold an item for me. And I said, you see that little corner over there? I've got an idea. And that's when I called myself Surrey Jewelry Services. And they were nice enough to let me come in and take that little corner. And I ran out of there for 4 years until they sold the building 2 years ago last month.
Wow.
And then at that point I had to kind of rework it again. And I decided to do everything by appointment out of my home. So that's what I'm doing now. And it's been great.
Yeah.
Yeah, people are finding me and coming over, and now it's even worked out better for customers because they have my undivided attention when they come over.
True.
Yeah.
True.
Many times at either of the shops, there'd be two or three people waiting for me, and I'd have to say, Pete, got lady behind.
Yeah.
Now you come to my home, and we sit and I make you coffee, whatever you want to do, and we have a nice conversation, and I take care of your jewelry items.
Where did your love for working on jewelry? Where did that come from?
That all started in the '80s because we were a gift and home furnishing store. We also sold jewelry, but it was costume jewelry in the '70s. And then when I got out of college in the '80s, in the mid '80s, I started selling real gold, like 14 karat gold and sterling silver and gemstones and so on. And so that morphed. And I give my father credit. One day he was reading the newspaper over in the corner, and I couldn't see him. And people used to come in and say, I need a watch battery. And I was so busy at the time selling gifts and furniture and everything else that I used to say something like, well, go down to see my friend at Fourball Jewelers.
Right.
Tony.
Yeah.
And they would go. And one day my father, the paper came down, and he went, why can't we do watch batteries? And I said, Dad, I guess you're right. We can.
Yeah.
And so I looked into how to do it, and it morphed from there. And it became the biggest. By the time I closed in 2016, it was 50 to 60% of my business was watch batteries, watch repairs, jewelry repair, etc.
I need to call you. My wife needs her wedding ring resized.
Oh, there you go. Great.
That's something you that's right up your alley,
Absolutely,
right?
That's up my alley. Anything to do with the jewelry business. People say, do you do this? Do you do this? I say, if you can name it in the jewelry business, I do it. And if I can't do it, it can't be done. So I hope I can always back that up. But so far, I've been able to back it up.
Nice.
But yes, and I've been made a house call to your house, as a matter of fact.
Yes, you did.
To pick up and drop off jewelry, and I'm willing to do that. Some of my customers are elderly, and they struggle. They maybe don't drive, or they struggle to get out. And I'm always willing to go to their homes and take if I can't do it in their home, because sometimes obviously I need certain equipment.
Right.
I take it, I do the repair work or whatever, and I bring it back to them a week or two later, whatever the time allows.
Now, you're also in real estate, right?
I've been a realtor, active realtor for 40 plus years now.
Wow.
Well, just about 40, 1985.
So you're doing that while you were doing the shop.
Yeah, they did that as a side hustle, and continue to do it as a side hustle today, because real estate, like I said, real estate ebbs and flows. And so during the ebbs and flows, there's the jewelry business, and during the ebbs and flows for that, there's the real estate business. So it works out well.
Always busy.
And I was able to do it. I tried to do it part-time in the 80s when I first got my real estate license, but it was difficult because in those days we had to go pick up the MLS books every week.
Oh, right.
There were no computers then. And if you wanted to possibly buy a house, I had to come to your house and we had to sit and flip through the books.
Oh, wow, yes.
And so I realized this is tough because I was so busy at the shop. We were in our heyday then. And but then now, of course, I can set you up in a program at night, and you can wake up the next day and see the brand new listings that have come out that meet your parameters. So the computer world again.
Right.
So it kind of killed one business, but it helped the other a lot. So it's good.
We can't go through the show without mentioning golf and the fact that you told me before we started, coming up is your 50th?
My 50th consecutive August Fourball at the New Bedford Country Club as a member, yes.
Wow.
50 in a row.
Wow.
And I'm the longest tenured member there. I just finished my 57th year as a member. And so, it seems like I was the kid there yesterday, and now I'm one of the old guys, so time really flies by.
Now, you started playing golf. Did you start in high school or younger, or what?
I started playing when I was 10, 1968.
Okay.
And my uncle taught me how to hold a club at the driving range. Everybody thinks my father taught me because that's kind of natural.
Sure.
But it was actually the opposite. I got into it with my uncle. And then after a while, my father saw my interest because he thought it was a stupid game, and hit this ball and run and go get it.
What did they say about golf? Golf is a lovely walk that's spoiled by a little white ball.
A good walk ruined. Exactly.
Yeah,
Mark Twain's line was a good walk ruined. I think.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay.
But same thing. And but after my first 6 or 8 months, my father said, "Well, geez, I ought to try this if my son's so into it." And next thing you know, he was playing golf 5 days a week and. In 1975, I think he became the president of the New Bedford Country Club. So it was just it became a family thing at that point. My mother played, and it's been a huge part of my life forever.
Now, where did you go to college?
Rollins College outside of Orlando.
Okay.
Winter Park, Florida.
And you played golf there?
I did, yeah. It was a great experience. We had the conversation earlier about sports in the hotbeds of what you do, whether you're a football player, basketball player, golfer. You can be very good in an area, and then you find out when you get there that it's a different league.
Everybody's that good, if not better.
Everybody's that good and better, right?
Yeah.
So it was a great experience. I played, and the competition was a lot of fun. But I realized that I probably wasn't going to make a living at the game unless I wanted to make that tremendous dedication.
Did you want to?
That's what I question. No, I've always been a little bit lazy with things.
Okay.
To my own fault. And that I was always a natural kind of golfer, and I would be on the driving range with my friends, and they'd practice 8 hours a day, and I never practiced. And they'd be mad at me because I was ahead of them on the team. And I'd say, hey, what can I tell you,
Yeah.
But I think back, what if I did practice and put in that effort?
Right.
But, it has to be part of you. I played with guys that had that killer instinct, and in any sport, football, basketball, again, baseball, they have that killer instinct when they're in the big leagues. And I didn't have that. I still don't have it.
I talked to somebody the other day who went to school with Jared Schuster, who's now a professional baseball pitcher. And they said even at the age of 10, you could see it. His focus was miles apart from everyone else. So,
yes.
Yeah.
I played golf in Florida with some guys that went onto the PGA Tour after. And I would play with them, and I'd be walking down the fairway with my bag. Hey, how you doing? What's going on with school? And they looked straight ahead, didn't even turn to talk to me.
What did you go to?
I couldn't do that.
Yeah. What did you go to Rollins for?
I majored in economics and political science.
Okay.
Started out as a business major, and then realized at 8 o'clock in the morning I had accounting classes. And I had a teacher who spoke like this, monotone, at 8 o'clock in the morning. And I realized this is not going to work. So I switched to economics and political science. But that served me well.
Right.
Economics is still to this day. A lot of things I do with investing and that kind of thing is all based on some of that economic teaching that I had back then.
So did I miss anything? The Surrey Shoppe, Surrey Jewelry Services, the real estate, and the golf.
There you
You
go.
have time for anything else?
Sure, I've got all day. What else do you want to talk about?
Family, you said grandchildren recently.
I have two wonderful boys, grandchildren. Yeah,
Okay.
Brady and Logan. Brady is 7, and Logan is about to be 3, on Valentine's Day.
Right.
And they're just the greatest thing that ever happened.
I was asking
Like
him,
Liam for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was asking Joel, I said, did you have time to put together any pictures for us? And he was like, I'll get back to you on that. My grandchildren, and I know what you mean. My grandson is 5 years old, and he gets up at like 7 in the morning, and he is nonstop till 8 or 9 at night.
They just don't stop.
Yeah.
We had him for 4 days in a row, the last 4 days. That's why getting those pictures was difficult, but I'll get them to you.
Okay, okay.
But I wouldn't trade it for anything. They're a blast.
Yeah, certainly are.
And you know, as you know, they grow so quickly that even when I'm tired and I'm at my wit's end, I just keep on going because I know that another few years they're not going to want to deal with Grampy. So I'm going to suck it up as long as I can.
I find that I'm also learning things from him.
Oh, no question.
And I've written about this, about how he lives in the moment. What matters now is what's here. And that's so true for us, too. I mean, I don't know about you, but I've got a busy day today, and my mind is going, oh, I got to do this, I got to do that, when I should just be right totally here.
You're absolutely right. So, I felt the same way.
Yeah.
Sitting on the floor with them and thinking of all the things I had to do, and then realizing that the world for them is right there in that moment.
Right.
And that's where we as adults should be. So I agree with you.
I think many of us watching will remember the Surrey Shoppe and going to see Matt and Therese and
Pete Braley on our anniversary.
On the anniversary.
Yeah.
When was that again? That was
Columbus Day every year.
Columbus Day, right.
We opened on October 18th, 1962. And then we opened the big Surrey Shoppe on October 18th, 1965.
Okay.
But because of the fact that Columbus Day involved a weekend, we ended up making it on Columbus Day and Columbus Day weekend because it was easier for people. Typically, everybody had the day off.
Right.
But it was officially October 18th was our anniversary date. My mother's birthday.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So many good memories, and I'm sure you've got the people you've met over the years.
I could sit here for hours, Pete. Especially at this time of year, I get very sentimental because this was our time in the gift industry.
Right.
And people would come in. I have pictures, which I will find, of Judge Mike Livingston. He was an attorney at the time. And he'd come in and he'd have his Santa hat on. And he'd buy a bunch of things, and we'd gift wrap everything. And Lars Vinrud and Sheila from Ma's Donuts and Janine Duchesne from Sunbeam Bread.
Oh, wow.
All these people would come in, and it wouldn't be Christmas without coming to the Surrey Shoppe.
Right.
And it wouldn't be Christmas for us without having them come in. Mrs. Weaver from Crowley Weaver Insurance.
Oh, wow.
These folks came in faithfully every Christmas and all year long, but especially at Christmas. And with the enthusiasm and the holiday spirit, and so this time of year I get a little fuzzy.
You miss it.
Yeah, I do a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's what I do.
There must have been parts of it you don't miss.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
You did a lot. You went to a lot of shows, didn't you, around the country?
Gift shows all over the place. Yeah,
Right.
And the hours. I worked 6 or 7 days a week for almost 40 years, 36 years roughly.
Right.
And that's tough. We would Labor Day, after Labor Day, we would open every single day till Christmas. So I would go like 88 straight days without a day off. Yeah.
Wow.
And that part I don't necessarily miss, especially at this age.
I remember calling you on certain mornings. There were some mornings after we had an overnight snow, and you would come to the phone and you go, "Hi, I just finished the sidewalk. Are we ready?" Because that's something a small business owner has to do.
You're the when the toilet breaks, you fix it, and when the snow falls, you shovel it. But again, so those things, yes, I don't miss.
Right.
But it was just a wonderful time. Got to meet great people like you. I never would have met you without the Surrey Shoppe.
That's true. We never would have met.
And Stan Lip and Hal Peterson and Jack Peterson, and
yes,
who happens to be, his real name was Joel, by the way.
Joel, yes, that's right. That's right.
We shared that name, and it goes on and on. Even Scott and good old days. I could go on forever.
Right.
Yeah.
So, do you play golf year round?
I don't.
You don't.
I don't like to play golf in the winter. My friends do. They call me and I say, no, I'm good. Just don't like it's a tough enough game when you have short sleeves on, never mind when you're all bundled up.
My son-in-law in Texas came up for Thanksgiving, and he said, should I bring my clubs? You want to go out? I wouldn't mind playing in some cooler weather, because it's still 80 degrees down there. He said, I wouldn't mind playing in some cooler weather, and I said, 33? No, I'm not going out. I'm not going out.
It has to be 50 or more for me to really... Right. And it's also the other thing, the conditions, muddy.
Oh, true.
It's muddy, sometimes temporary greens. It's just not comfortable for me.
In Corpus Christi, they have a golf course. I don't know if it's 18 holes or 9, because it would be expensive for 18, I think. It's lighted like a baseball field. It's lit up like a baseball field. And the reason is, in the summer, it can be 110 degrees. Nobody wants to play during the day.
That's a big thing, to play very early in the morning or in the early evening.
Right,
in Florida or Texas, places like that where it gets so hot.
Right.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on retirement?
Absolutely not. No. I'm fortunate. I don't dig ditches or anything like that.
Right.
I repair jewelry. I sell jewelry. I still am in the sales business. So not only do I repair watches and jewelry, but I also sell. I still have all my suppliers that I had before, my vendors. So why retire? I enjoy it. I'm a people person, you know.
Yes,
and
yes.
I love when people come to the house and we sit and reminisce. And I learn about their families. I just did engagement rings for a couple of young couples, and now I can watch these people grow. They send me Facebook pictures of their wedding and showing their rings, and it's great stuff. I enjoy it.
Do you have a Facebook page for the business, or?
I do. It's Surrey Jewelry Services.
Okay.
I have a website, surreyjewelryservices.com.
Okay.
And then I also have my Joel Gonsalves realtor page as well for the real estate.
Do you ever have trouble keeping them all separate?
I do sometimes. You're right.
Because I do like 4 different shows now.
There you go.
Between sports and cable shows and radio shows. And there are sometimes I have to think, where am I going?
Yeah. I've put posts on like jewelry on my real estate website accidentally. And when I realized it, had to take that down immediately, hoping people didn't see it. So
my oldest daughter, she gives me a hard time because if I say I'm tired, she'll say, well, you know, it's too bad you can't retire, because I was retired until Scott Renish called me to come back to the radio. And she keeps saying, well, it's too bad you couldn't be retired. And I said, look, I like what I do. And she can't wait to retire. And I tell her, the first 6 months are great. But then all of a sudden you're like, what do I do now?
Yeah,
you know?
No, it's true.
And she says, oh, no. I said, what are you going to do? She said, I'm going to garden and go out to lunch with friends. I said, that'll take about 6 months.
That'll get old fast. The first year when I closed in 2016, the first summer after that, I played 55 rounds of golf, I think. And I'm normally a 20 to 25 round guy for the whole summer. And 55 was like work to me. It was twice a week.
Wow.
But some of my friends play 5 or 6 days a week, and I don't know how they do it. I love the game as much as anybody, but it's too much like work.
Wait a minute. I've heard you're very good.
Well, I used to be very good. I'm still okay, but yeah, I only call myself okay now.
And you don't play that much, and you hate practice.
Exactly.
Don't you love guys like this?
A lot of guys have hated me over the years for that reason, but it's just been fortunate.
Thanks for coming in, Joel.
Thank you, Pete. It's such a pleasure to be with you, and thank you for all the kindness over the years.
It's great to have you in today. Thank you so much for watching. Again, if you have any ideas, somebody we should interview that you feel has made a big contribution to life here in Greater New Bedford, let me know. I'm on Facebook. You can send me a message. I'm also on X. I'm on the new one, Blue Sky, or you can email the Pete Braley Show at gmail.com. That's the Pete Braley Show at gmail.com. As we always do, we leave you with a thought for the day, and our thought today is, don't put the key to your happiness in someone else's pocket. Don't rely on someone else to make it. You take care of yourself, all right? Until next time, go out and make it a great day.